oh, there's this fucking trippy ass bug. Let's shoot it, brother. Give me that lens, brother. You know, and
look at that
like,
lizard. Oh
yeah,
man,
lizard. Yeah. You know?
walk past that lizard, dude.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody. It's time for another one fucking hour. This is Evan Husney, joined, of course, by my co-hosts. To my left, Tom Fitzgerald. Tom.
Hey there.
And to my right, Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus.
What's up, guys?
Not a lot. It's time for episode 11 of the show, guys. And this fucking hour is on the 1971 film Masterpiece by Nicolas Roeg, and that is Walkabout. Okay, Walkabout. All right, I'm going to start the clock. You guys ready?
Oh boy. Yep.
Way up, yeah.
It's going to go so fast.
Okay, here we go. All right, clock started. All right, I'm going to kick it off to you, Tom, to start, because I know from talking to you about this movie a lot over the years that this was a very formative film for you personally. Maybe one of the first movies you ever saw?
Indeed. It's one of the first three movies I ever saw. My mom would take me to this revival theater. So this is like mid-'70s. So these 99-cent triple bills would happen. And one of the movies was Walkabout. And I was exactly the same age as the little brother in the film. I know it. Just consciously I could tell that because he felt like a peer. Like, oh, I know that dude. Like, I get it. Like, where his head's at. And so it affected me greatly. But I was so young that all the nudity and the animal killing and the surrealism and the psychedelic flavor, it just rolled with me because I was kind of like, oh yeah, movies are fun. This is great. Like I like movies, but I didn't have it in context. So I rolled with it, and none of it was like disturbing except maybe one scene. But just the funny anecdote for me is being the same age as the little brother, I started cosplaying, for lack of a better term. I started play acting, and I insisted on this little kind of leather satchel. My mom bought it for me, and I got toy soldiers and a little rowboat man and everything. It was like I had a fad going where I, for a little while, was like pretending I was in Walkabout, but I was in downtown Long Beach, California.
Wow,
isn't that weird? Yeah, I know.
Man, that is insane.
So it's a very weird thing. I'm sure most people have this experience where something they saw in a really formative years, especially a film, not TV, when you see it again, it kind of hits you like you are remembering a dream or something. And it happens to me all the time with Walkabout because certain shots, for whatever reason, are seared into me more than others from the first time I saw it. And I got to say, the one scene that did fuck me up, because it is disturbing, is the inexplicably unexplained suicide of the white man father of the two kids. And it's very heavy. Rewatching it, I'm like, of course that affected me. Because it's stylized, there's burning, quick cuts, and then he shoots himself, and it's like two shots, quick succession of him shooting himself, and then a side shot, and there's like this hellish fire happening. So maybe we can roll that up. Yeah. But that one had an effect on me. It was unpleasant, but it was also fascinating. You know what I mean? It was so unlike reality. Because even if I saw this event, I wouldn't see it stylized the way Nicolas Roeg documented it. You know what I mean? And then the follow-up where the tribe visits the burned out husk of his VW bug and his corpse hanging in the tree. That too fucked me up. So let's maybe take a look at that and just
sure. Yeah, and
get
this
a little
is
flavor inside my cranium here.
Yeah, and this is one of the early scenes of the film that kind of kicks it all off. And it's very disorienting because, here ostensibly you have a 6-year-old, I'm sure everybody here listening to this has seen the movie, but you have a 6-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl, siblings, and they're basically abandoned after this scene in the outback until they are sort of rescued by an indigenous boy who is on his walkabout rite of passage journey.
And just real briefly, what gets me too is it's unexplained. There's no character development. But we all kind of know, like, there's another old middle-aged white Western civilization guy who's like wants to not just kill himself but kill his family. Like, that happens. Like, so we don't really need to know the backstory. It's unsurprising.
It's that thing that we all love too, where like the movie kind of just starts right away too. We don't spend like a modern movie, you spend half an hour with, like you said, just this like really boring character development.
Right.
Character development is supposed to be a good thing, I guess, but like not.
Well, it can work in the hands of a master,
today,
Like Godfather has character development.
Yeah. Not like a Michael Bay Transformers or something.
Yeah, you just get right into this, and it comes as a shock. Let's watch it. I have more thoughts on the other side, so let's check it out.
And here we go, just incredible filmmaking. We were talking earlier, like quick cuts to macro shots, close-up shots, like his gun, water gun. Like,
Right. The way that the shooting is introduced too is just so out of nowhere. Like the father's looking at the kid through binoculars only moments before, and then next thing you know, there's a gunshot.
And then Jenny Aguter's, the older sister, she knows what's going on. But what I love about the little brother is he really is just many steps behind in cognitive understanding of things, because he is the mind of a child. So it's all potentially superhero radio shows in his mind, like he doesn't quite have a handle on reality in a Western civilization sense, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's totally like disorienting and totally jarring when it's like, wow, he's firing at the kids, and like you as the audience are processing it in a delayed sort of way too.
And he's firing at the picnic that's been set, which has maybe some kind of right there that has almost like a very small Zabriskie Point kind of commentary, like he's shooting Western civilization and as represented by like this bourgeois picnic and this savage, beautiful outback.
Right. Earlier, he's like sort of staring off, like listening to like whatever his wife's cooking dinner. He looks very like kind of bored by society. Like there's obviously a lot of commentary of like society and humanity brushing up against it, and how there's no place for people in the world that we've created for ourselves.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's really disturbing.
It devastated me. Yeah.
And just prior to this too, just seeing the shot of the gas can on the ground is just enough context to give you how much this was pre-planned, in terms of what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's a nice subtlety in the filmmaking there.
Well, he brought a gun too.
Well, yeah, but even more, the next step to burn the car, is
like 1, 2, 3, and you know what? You see this on the news, man. You see this happens.
Totally.
Like men snap, and again, you don't need to know why. You do know why, and it's true. Well, Marcus said something about bookending the film with suicides, but it looks like a very miserable state of mental illness that he's in, aka Western civilization. As Jodorowsky once said, every single human being in Western civilization is mentally ill, despite degrees.
Yeah.
It does. It feels like the whole movie is sort of, it deals with that theme a lot, that there's like there's no place for man in the world that we've created for ourselves. And like you just alluded to, like the film is bookended by the suicides, and spoiler alert, there's a suicide at the end too, where the beginning is the modern man committing suicide,
right?
In nature, and then the end is the sort of like man who lives in nature killing himself, like at a civil, he's at like a farm, or basically. So it's almost like a mirror image of it, but it's and then there's a lot of the kids are out in nature trying to survive, but they don't choose to stay there. They try to go back to the town, and at the end she's like imagining like the bush again. So there's this constant feeling throughout the movie that there's no place for people in the world that we've made. It's not just society. It's like we can't go back to nature either.
Yeah,
go back to the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, which is a big theme in the movie. But it's also like, it seems like they had a great time, kind of out there in the outback a little bit, and she's looking back on it at the end. I think they had a great time. But the one thing I wanted to say, sorry.
But she knew, no, you're right. It's just, this is all gummed up inside the film, but she is a force of the West, in that she slowly, as they get closer to that road, she starts dressing again. she starts getting into the rules with the little brother, instead, like, did you have your meal at this time? Like the rigidity of Western civilization. Right. And that's the most heartbreaking part for me in a way, with the epilogue of her heartbreak on her face as she tunes out her boring husband talking about, some office politics, and because he will be the father in the future and shooting his children and himself, so
right.
You know what I mean? Like right. This is a form of death in that,
right.
in that high-rise apartment. And it's
real
all
quick,
heartbreak.
Sorry, real quick, just going back to the dad's suicide scene that we just saw. You were talking about like how it's great that there's no real backstory. I mean, there's one clue to kind of what was going on a little bit, but it's just a thread of a clue, which is those documents, those papers that he's obsessing over moments before he actually does go through with his plan to kill his family. He's like looking at like geology reports, is what he's looking at and obsessing over. And of course that foreshadows, I know we got to talk about the weird weather. That's like a half an hour right there. We'll get there. But so that's kind of interesting. But here's something even more interesting, which is the source material for Walkabout. Tom, that's your cue.
Bing, 3, 2, 1. The film tie-in, but it's really just the old 1959 novel that the film is barely based on.
Mm-hmm. And one thing about the book that's really interesting is the book does not have this scene in it. I just knew that. I figured. Yeah, the way that the adventure kicks off in the book is actually there's a plane crash, and that's what puts the boy and the girl in the outback, sort of on their left to their own devices, is because of a plane crash. Right.
It's just like Lost in the Desert, Durkee.
100%. But this choice to make, this very dark and disturbing circumstance is actually a stroke of genius, because it works so well for the Jenny character, because it really gives her this immediate, it thrusts her into having to be, this immediate loss of innocence, because a plane crash is an accident. And then here's something that thrusts her into survival mode. It makes the stakes a million times higher, and that's just, I thought that was cool, because I don't know exactly what led them to that choice, but I know that they didn't want to use what was in the novel because they didn't want it to be like Lord of the Flies. Actually, they didn't want it to be compared to that, because that was obviously just
same narrative,
right,
like angle. But no, and also like I don't even think of that. Funny enough, I was just talking about the very end of the film and how she's got melancholy on her face because she's wistfully remembering this moment of Eden with the three of them, nude to the world, like if you don't need to wear clothes, why are you wearing clothes? That kind of thing. But I had forgotten. I wasn't fusing when I watched the film. Excuse me. I don't thread through her character's arc that she has this very damaging thing, because the little boy does not. He's like, everything's like a Flash Gordon radio show, like I was saying. So he doesn't know what the hell's going on. But she's carrying that with her too, that she had an absolutely scarring moment of the West, because she just knows that wouldn't happen with the people who are indigenous to the land out there, like David's character, and she, like, what I'm saying. So it's like she has this incredibly negative experience, and immediately becoming an adult. Not just that, the thing that's intense for her, where she has to grow up immediately and be a parent, but also that's some heavy shit people go to therapy for like a decade. Yeah,
it's that thing that it's that childhood trauma moment that really kicks it off and sets you into adulthood, forces you kind of to in a lot of ways. And with her, she's obviously taking care of her younger brother, and it thrusts us right into the action of the movie, which is just what a brilliant choice from a writing perspective in this movie, which is not the first thing you necessarily think about, because this movie, and this is a good segue into how absolutely from a visual point of view this movie's at the top of the lists of the most visually dynamic and amazing films ever shot.
Yeah, it's such a great, we talk a lot about filmmaking, obviously, on this show, and even when we're talking about stuff like Sledgehammer and analyzing the filmmaking there, but this is really, this is really just a great illustration of just how the film is like a film as peak art form. Like it has elements of other arts in it, beautiful photography. It's got poetry, like literal poetry in it. the sound design is incredible, and it's all combined into this medium that, to tell a story in a way that couldn't be told in any other medium together. Like, it feels like a really peak example of how film can achieve like a very high.
Like film as a potential work of art manifests in this case. By the way, side note, another film, you seem to like this, that values sound.
Oh, 100. Oh my God.
Oh yes.
Music and music and diegetic sound, whatever you call it, like, just natural sound.
The way that stereo is like threaded through the entire thing with music, and it's a way to integrate pop music, and then like
the haunting voice of
the West,
Rod Stewart. Because I thought about this. I love this. You could be in the middle of nowhere and completely lost, but you could still listen to the radio.
Yeah,
so that it really haunts me. It's like you hear civilization, but you don't know where to get to it, and then you're hearing like whatever the hell pop culture is doing, and in that case, it's Rod Stewart's Gasoline Alley during your father's suicide. But also, God, you guys are gonna kill me. But like, just one little thread on sound, and we should play this actually, Evan. If you could call it up. Shit, what is it called? I'm calling everything goofy now. Radio Psych.
Oh yeah.
And what I'm getting at is the art, the only film, you can only make a work of art like this in the medium of film, and it's not like based on a novel or a play. Not really based on a novel. It's certainly not a play, But there's one moment where Stockhausen's music's playing.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It becomes like psychedelic, because I think they're going in a direction where like the radio frequencies are kind of getting screwed up. And genius uses the incredibly hardcore psychedelic radio frequency mindfuck of a Stockhausen piece. I can't remember the name, but we have it here. And it's brief and it's all incredible nature stuff, footage, and then just this really intense, disorienting Western civilization ghosts floating in the air.
So you'll want some volume on this one.
Yeah, if you can.
Oh, I love that shot too. It's fucking
incredible. There's two incredible feet shots.
Oh, I know what you're talking
this just
about.
Kills me. I was flipping channels years ago. I know. I was flipping channels years ago, and I didn't say what it was, and it was this moment, and I was like, "What the fuck is this movie?"
Bring him with you.
It's that dream I had.
Yeah, I know. I saw this when I was like 6 years old. Great piece. I listen to this on my headphones sometimes. This piece. You guys should all go to the record store and get this Stockhausen album. What is it called?
Nothing can ever be created.
It's like a whole album of this stuff.
Wow.
It's called Hymnen.
I'll put a link in the description of the video.
On the album called Anthems.
It's right there now. Here it goes.
Every man and every woman is a star.
You know what I think of is, I think I did this as a child. When I first heard I Am the Walrus, the end of I Am the Walrus, I thought of Walkabout.
Right, the King Lear radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because the Beatles are into Stockhausen.
Yeah.
It was a time, and that's another thing I like to say about Walkabout. You were saying it was maybe the best example of film as a work of art, Marcus. I also want to say it's one of the premier examples of where the arts were, around 66 to 73 or something. You know what I mean? Like, this is one of, not even just film, but just like, it's one of the most assured and fully realized examples of the new arts. You know what I mean?
100%. Well, yeah, and something I want to talk about just with that specifically. I mean, you're talking about how it's, this is a pure form of cinema in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of that too is because, I mean, you were saying it's based upon this script that was 15, 20 pages,
14
pages. And, and this is,
do it.
That's the way to do it, man. And like, Nicolas Roeg, obviously, genius. And making this movie, just the process of making this movie. Obviously, he comes from a very highly skilled cinematography background. You know, I mean, this guy was shooting second unit on, Lawrence of Arabia and shit. Like, he knows
Fahrenheit 415 or 451, whatever it's called.
Petulia. He's doing.
Yeah,
he's doing awesome shit, and of course, he's collaborating with amazing people. I mean, obviously, his first feature, he had the co-directing credit with Donald Campbell on performance. Another one,
and just and the way they broke that down, just to be clear, is he did all the film stuff and all the acting stuff was Camel. So it really is his first film. And by the way, that is an incredible example of editing, time fuck. Cross-cutting, and also incredible compositional photography. They're a pair in my mind. They're on par.
Yeah, the one thing about the like cross-cutting thing, because that's obviously one thing about Nicolas Roeg that always gets talked about is his kind of signature cross-cutting style with the editing, which is obviously like really emerging with Walkabout. One thing I got to mention, because I am a big Donald Campbell fan. Just a quick shout out to everyone who doesn't have a copy of this bad boy here. Got to get my book in there. Donald Campbell, Ultimate Performance. When Donald Campbell passed away, they did this BBC documentary about him, and Nicolas Roeg was on there talking about his buddy and really gave him a lot of credit, for that editing style, kind of originating a little bit from what Donald was fucking with,
Can I geek out for 1 second?
Please.
This is not a performance, 1 fucking hour, but I had lunch with Frank Mazzola because he's the third musketeer in what we're describing. If we're just want to talk about editing, and people getting turned on by each other's ideas of editing in the performance project, and how it then related to what Roeg brought to Walkabout. If you'll indulge me, Frank Mazzola, maybe you guys don't know him. He's the editor of performance. And he was and they collaborated incredibly. He was a jazz drummer. He was a hep cat, like he smoked pot cigarettes in the 50s, and he was in Rebel Without a Cause. I had lunch with him. He was an amazing guy, and he had all these incredible ideas. And just the big quote from him, and I do bring this up for Roeg and Walkabout, because he really took a lot from Mazzola. The big quote from Mazzola was just, film is visual meter. He thought of it in terms of music. And it was such a radical idea. Just people did not edit that way.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of great films, like Sunset Boulevard's a conventionally edited film. It's amazing. But so these guys were super far out, the three of them. And so I would say that there was this cauldron of editing conceptualization that then moved for Roeg onto Walkabout. So just wanted to say that, very special.
Yeah, so you have that, right? And then you also have, his cinematography background, which is, on another fucking planet, in terms of this movie. But the idea that, when we were talking about this before we were recording, is this idea that, like, this movie is not location scouted. This is not something where any of that is traditionally done. This is that kind of like, obviously this is pre-Herzog, but he would kind of go on to do similar shit, where it's like you take the crew out into the elements and then you embrace the fucking elements.
Like a Gear.
Yeah, exactly. And you're finding these moments in nature. You're finding these sort of spontaneity, with, there's this fucking trippy ass bug. Let's shoot it, brother. Give me that lens, brother. And
look at that lizard. Oh
yeah,
man.
Lizard. Yeah.
Walk past that lizard, dude. Like, okay. Yeah. And that idea came.
So many animals in this
instantly.
movie. Yeah.
No, but what he's saying is just like, hey, look at that lizard, and it's like, let's shoot it. Like, let's go right now. Walk past it twice, and we'll get a good shot of it. And listen, I was stunned. To speak to what you're saying, just we'll keep going. What you're getting at. Right before we did this podcast, right before we went on, I just found out that it was mostly improvised. The script was a skeleton, and I could see it now. I almost want to watch it again. And it's just. But one example of what you're saying is of them going with the flow, like basically going out in the desert and freaking out and finding the next shot, when they just walk forward, is, the little brother, he does get a really bad sunburn in reality. And David had a remedy of like cooked up guts of, I forgot what it was, like an alligator or something. I don't know.
Right.
And like, and some mammal. And he just applied the guts to the little boy's back, and it is soothing. And really, this was Roeg. Get the camera. We have our next scene.
Yeah.
There you go. No, but he just said, like, get the camera. Like we we got a new scene here and it's fantastic, you know? And God, I mean, we're already running out of time, but just let's make sure to carve out a lot of time for David.
We will.
Being a huge influence on this film, because they were kind of, he really was leading the way. They were following him because all the little tiny indigenous cultural nuances and behaviors and you know,
the
lifestyles.
authenticity.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Because another corny ass movie with like a really straight crew would have just made up stuff or said that's too silly or like, but the authenticity is there because David is really just doing his thing, because he, you know, not all indigenous people in Australia do a lot of you know, outback, you know, trekking, but he did a lot, you know what I mean? So he really was very comfortable in that environment, and we're seeing a lot of his influence because Roeg allowed, you know, like his influence to start shaping and sculpting the story.
Well, he inspired him. Yeah, he inspired him in a major
exactly.
way. And it's also like not unlike another film that I'm hoping we'll cover on the show at one point when we talk about Wake and Fright, which is kind of the approach of, here's an outsider. Nicolas Roeg, obviously he's British. Ted Kotcheff, he's Canadian, even further away. And these guys are coming into this fascinating country, and they're really getting to know the locals and having them sort of lead the way in terms of where should we be shooting, what's crazy out there, you know. And then obviously, you know, how Nicolas Roeg met David, you know, which is fascinating, is that, like, you know, in his research, because he moved to Australia for the production of this movie and immersing himself in these indigenous cultures, going to these different settlements and just interviewing people and talking to people. And then it was like David Gopalil, you know, R.I.P. as of last month, you know, he was the guy everyone was talking about. Like, you got to meet David. He's this kind of born star in a lot of ways. And then I think it was just kind of one of those luck and chance encounter things. And then, of course, as you said, I mean, he just really, he gave so much to this movie. I mean, Nicolas Roeg talks about how the mating dance, which we should look at some point, you know, he gave that, you know, to the movie, is the way that he referred to that.
Like, that was not like, they didn't say, well, on day 12, we got to do that mating ritual dance, you know, where he's wearing the white dots. No, that's all David's input. Incredible, you know? Yeah. No, so yeah, you're right. David was a really special guy in the local area where he was casting or scouting. Roeg was scouting. And yeah, everyone kept referencing him. And I think that he was a dancer, yes, but I think his role was, you know, kind of a different approach as a creative person, was a storytelling dancer. Like, he would tell these ill stories with dance. You know, maybe I don't know. Maybe it didn't even include verbalization, but he would tell a story maybe simply through his body movements, you know.
I wonder if he did his own makeup and like and like the drawings and stuff, you know.
Of course.
Well, so
I'm sure he did those drawings.
He had a I think his name was Dick or something. I think he had like a guy that was like his kind of handler on set, who was also from the settlement that he came from.
His buddy.
And his buddy. And he and his buddy did all the makeup. I think they actually came across those cave painting drawings, you know, but I think like he enhanced them a little bit, but they came across some of that stuff. Again, just embracing the elements, and it winds up in the movie, but it's just...
That's right. She's like, does she have a crayon or a pencil or something? Yeah. She can't do anything, you know?
Well, she wants to communicate. It's actually kind of another sad little moment. Somebody... Actually, Roger Ebert said this. He said so much of the film is about communication. I say yes.
I vote no.
Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't, Roger. No, so no. So, like, I think what she's trying to do then is, hey, there's a way that we can maybe have some parity in the form of communication. If my stupid little brother did have some crayons or something, I could draw like she does, like he does. Excuse me.
Disconnected from that, you know. Like,
yeah. Well, she felt like there's a form that they could communicate finally.
Yeah, but she's unable to. Yeah, she's unable to go back there. That's another place where you're.
Well, that's later. I'm saying in the narrative of the film. Then.
No, I know. I'm saying, but she can't draw like in the sand or like pick up a rock or something. She needs a pencil to be able to do it. You know what I mean? She needs that technology.
She's older, and the codification of Western civilization is more there because
there's a lot of that parallels. Because, like, you know, he cooks a lot in the film, just throwing like an animal on the fire with no stick or anything, you know, directly on the fire. And then we see her mom cooking earlier, and at the end, of course, she's cooking with like a knife and stuff. There's always like those parallels between the The whole movie is just like
the
a
West and the Outback. Yeah,
Right.
of course, a lot of parallel editing. It's great cost cutting. Excuse me, but like it's just speaking communication. If you guys don't mind, like, did you love that you started noticing that the little brother, he's starting to talk to David?
Yes, she's like, translate for me. Yeah, like
she's like, ask him when we're going to find the road, and she's like, okay, hold on, and David's just like, and he's like, okay, tomorrow, and I was like, damn, that's cool, because he has the more impressionable mind, again, not as codified,
not as corrupted by society,
but also like brains. The best time to learn multiple languages.
He's the most impressionable age, Yeah.
Right, exactly. So he's picking up on it. But there's also a few other things going on because he is so young. Because he's saying like, hey, aren't the three of us going to be rescued and get out of here and have a life together? Aren't we going to be like this new thing, this three of us? And she's like, not even a little. You know what I mean? Like, no, we're just going to run away. And that's part of his suicide, her rejection of him.
Let's talk about that. Should we show that?
But
Should we just like maybe? I feel like we kind of touched on the mating dance. I'm sure we'll cut to that here and there, but let's get to obviously.
Go to suicide?
Yeah, let's just go to like one of the more harrowing scenes in the whole film.
That's true.
Which is the ultimate breakdown of that communication that Ebert is sort of saying is when obviously Luke, the little boy, Nicolas Roeg's son, we didn't mention, but is trying to offer him fruit, and then he doesn't even realize that he's no longer with us. So
can I mention one other thing?
Sure.
Well, here we are, so here's the shot. He's kind of hung himself from a tree, but one thing I noticed recently was she gets surly with him when she asks him for water and sort of treats him like a servant. And he kind of gives her a side eye, like, because she's like, yeah, I want water. And he's like, yeah, water. Like, and he looks at her like a double take, like, oh man, she's changed. Like she's slowly leaving, as we referred to before, she's slowly leaving the Eden of the water pool. I think those are called billabongs, by the way, the water pool they were in. But she really gets kind of bitchy when she's like, she just kind of keeps saying like water. Yeah. I want water.
Well, that part right there too is incredible. She's like she goes back to Miss Manners. There's that like radio program that's playing like at the beginning, and we hear another part that's like talking about like how to set your table and how the table manners basically. And then he's dead there, and she tells the little brother like, oh, you shouldn't eat your breakfast standing up. She's like, she's totally, I mean, just to put it there at that moment where the friend is dead, and she's like, she's back to society, to one of the most worthless, most meaningless bits of like custom in society that there is like setting the table properly.
Especially Australian table manners. I mean,
let's,
I'm kidding.
Let's
just being silly.
Actually, just to play this for a second, because we can
do it. This is incredible. So here is an exhibition of his dancing, and in the narrative of the film, he comes upon her, and she's actually topless at least. This is after she puts her shirt back on, because she's kind of mortified by, a possible sexual encounter with him. Because when they're in Eden and they're naked and everything, it's there's a little hint of it earlier in the film when they're both kind of checking each other out, but when it gets down to like the reality of possibly cohabitating with him, she really hides and slams the door. And by the way, he does this all day and all night, his mating ritual, until he's exhausted. He's there. He's still there. Like the little boy's like, is he going to dance at night? And this is another sad moment. You know what I mean? And it's really heartbreaking. And he's such an incredible actor and performer, because so much of acting is just your face, and dude knows what he's doing in carrying emotions with his face. Am I right?
Oh my God. Well, the one thing you were saying earlier I wanted to touch on too was the storytelling with the dance, because in his culture, a huge part of it is the Dreamtime stories, which is something that David Gopalil would be, would always talk about, and it was a huge part of his identity. It was this idea that his culture, there is no kind of past, present, and future. It is all one that kind of relays in this Dreamtime. I mean,
which is perfect for Roeg.
Yes,
the
he's like,
subject of time displacement. Everything from it's funny. Just getting back to Rogue. This is ridiculous that we're only doing this for an hour, but like Rogue, there's a great hint. Actually, it's kind of funny because almost within his filmography, there's a time displacement because there's a moment in Walkabout that feels like it could have been in The Man Who Fell to Earth, which is where the little boy is seeing the ghosts and faint specters of pioneers, like English pioneers on camel, I think, and they're just kind of like they're opaque and ghosted out.
Well, that's in Walkabout, you mean, right? You're talking about?
That's what I'm saying. That's in Walkabout.
Yeah.
But then also David Bowie is seeing visions of the Wild West,
right,
in Man Fell to Earth. So it's very trippy because it's almost becoming like a pan filmic, this time displacement, and of course, Don't Look Now, obviously,
of course.
And so just him playing with time. It's a real sweet spot for him. It's a perfect place. And
I see what you're saying. You're saying like it's like Nicolas Roeg didn't make 9 films or whatever. He made like 1 film and it's all connected.
I don't know about that. It's just like
I know you're joking, but like you're saying it's.
Well, I just mean like I just had that buzz when I saw the moment in Walkabout because I flashed on a different film. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought if you could cut them in, and then other stuff's going on. Like, it just what happens to your head when you watch a filmmaker like this. Like, and then I was starting to think the Wild West, the British Empire, the Wild West is Australia, and there is a Wild West in.
Right.
In Man Who Fell to Earth, and just there's themes. He has themes that keep playing through. But again, it's just the power of his filmmaking makes that work. Because I think another filmmaker, this would all be a kind of a pain in the ass, frankly. Like
totally.
Zabriskie Point or something, which I love.
Oh yeah, of course. Just to put a bow on that scene with David, and the dance, and then going to his suicide. One little stark difference too from the actual book is I thought was interesting to mention, and again, just this is how they're kind of coming up with this movie as they're going. But the ending of the actual book is that the boy and the girl give the David character, ostensibly a illness because he's unvaccinated, or something, and that's what. So then he kind of there's more of a slow death, like he knows he's gonna die. So that's really interesting that they sort of like. This is what this turned into because of David and his influence on the film, and it's way more heartbreaking.
Actually,
I love. It's interesting. I love that the way that it's set up. Like you'd think a lot of movies. Like I was thinking about other like stranded, lost movies where there's like a boy and a girl together. Like Blue Lagoon or something. A lot of these movies edge towards like a romantic thing, and like you could see like a lesser filmmaker going there, and I love that they made the choice to make it a more deeper, meaningful commentary on life instead of turning into a romance novel.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Fantasy.
And the fact
they
that
deal with but they still deal with the sexual questions that are in your head. And when you're watching something like this, because you're putting yourself there, like what would I be? Going.
Well,
through
they're both coming of age. Well, they're both at the same age, right?
Yeah,
they're both coming into puberty. So the sexual glances, like they both check each other's bodies out,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like one is a like rite of passage, and then one, like I was saying earlier, is kicked off from this the Western trauma, of something that would happen to a family, and that's super fascinating to have that, from. I mean, that's just what makes this movie amazing. And then, of course, to have it all come to a head in that one moment where she ostensibly rejects him. I actually heard that for David, it was really tough doing that scene because doing the mating dance was really tough because, like I said, it was something he gave the film, but then for it to not have, like
unrequited,
right?
Yeah.
I like Nicolas Roeg in the commentary on the actual disc was saying that he was like very depressed afterwards.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
Can I bring up something else too about like there's a lot of things going on. Like there's the friction between those two, the man and the boy and the girl, and how they're so different, but there's similarities, but then the differences are too much. But then the other thing is just civilization. We keep talking about this, and I think one of the things that's really ironic is, from my understanding, from what I've read, is that in the story, David has encountered white people. He's seen trucks, like hunters and stuff. He knows them. I think that's why he swats the toy soldier out of the little boy's hand. You know, he's like, fuck those guys, you know. Like, he doesn't hang out at a bar with them. He didn't speak English, and neither did David in real life. But my point is, I think there's something almost like weird and ironic and Twilight Zone-ish, where, of course, she and her little brother do not know their orientation. Like, if they saw an aerial, like a map, it's like, oh, we go this way for 2 miles, and, you know, there's a petrol station. But they maybe went that way, and it's like 100 miles towards nothing. So, from what I understand, and I love this, is they're actually very close. And he has totally seen civilization. In fact, there's that weird moment, guys, when
the plantation, right?
Yes, that woman says something to David, and he's just like, oh, whatever. And like, but then of course they just, she and the little boy don't even see that weird white woman who pops in and out of between the rocks. That's just so strange. They're that close.
It's almost like he decided to keep them or something. I was thinking about like if a stray dog follows you home, and then you start, because he's really caring for them, he's feeding them, he's taking care of them. He's sort of like decides to keep them, you know. Like,
I think he doesn't understand. Like,
well, he does eventually lead them to a farm, but it's an abandoned one. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
but it's closer. They're getting closer. Well, because the road is just down the way from the abandoned farm. But no, but like, I think what's going on is he's confused too. Like, because there's no communication. I think what's happening is he's like, oh, y'all wanted to fuck with the Outback? All right. Like, he doesn't know that they're traumatized and because they don't often look like they're desperately trying to come home. They just look thirsty.
It's a good time.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or maybe it's like, hey, maybe white people are trying to do walkabouts now. So what I'm saying, it's just funny to me because I never knew until I read about this that in the reality of the motion picture, they're actually very close all the time. Like, the father didn't drive that far away, is what I'm saying. Well, but they think it's like in that Twilight Zone where they, you know, that stupid one where the astronauts land on a planet and it's just Arizona. That's all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's also, though, I was just dawned on me as well. It's like, you know, the reason they're also having a good time is because what really is the alternative? To go back to whatever trauma spawned what happened with the father and, you know, whatever. So it is also like, you know, we're running away in this sort of like fantastic.
They are kind of running. Well, especially the boy. He wants to have an adventure. He loves those radio stories with Batman and stuff. Like, this is an adventure. This is all a big, fun, crazy adventure. And he loves David. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Like he's fun. He's cool. He's killing animals and, like, you know, and he's kicking ass. You know what I mean? Like, he says, are we superheroes? You know? And so life got more interesting for him and for her.
She's having fun too, but she does harken back to the comforts of society a lot. Like, oh, I want to take like a warm bath and like.
Well, she says that later. Well, you notice she says that as they hit the farmhouse, which is by the road, and like I said, there's her receding.
Closer. She's inching back.
Yeah, exactly. The echo tone is shifting towards civilization.
Right. The way all the themes like intertwine with the locale is so brilliant. I mean, like for so much of it to have been improvised, and then like he must have just had such a clear idea of the themes and been on the lookout for how he could like translate them visually. I was just thinking, just dawned on me.
That's well put. Yeah, he knows what's on his mind, and some things click for him that are visual metaphors.
Right,
That's cool.
Like
that's very cool.
A good example of that, you know, just like a visual thing, and not necessarily. We talk a lot about editing and stuff, but there's all these visual, like, you know, things like film moments that happen. One of them,
Marcus, let's play some.
It's so amazing is just the tree. There's a lot of trees in this, but there's a specific moment where like the tree looks like legs, and we see her legs, and then her leg and a tree branch, kind of like her legs over here.
Absolutely. So amazing.
And where does he die? He dies hanging in a tree. You know what I mean? Like between the branches of this tree. So, and you know, all the anyway, it's just brilliant.
Oh, totally. Well, that's what I was saying. Like we pulled a bunch of these brief montages. Gosh. Well, how about this?
Desert is an alien
Desert
landscape.
Visions.
Desert Visions.
I think Alien Landscape is pretty dope, actually. Yeah.
Okay, let's do that one.
But all of them, you know, they're just little vignettes. Yeah, let's play a bunch, and because let's just get into like the visual power, the compositions, and the editing, and the sound.
Yeah, and again, it's just like, you know, the fact that he's, you know, has an unbelievable eye, and the fact that it's like, you know, it's that 1-to-1 of director is also cinematographer too,
right?
Which, you know, really is just, again,
and editor.
He's really got a map.
Editors in the film.
But he was there. I read that he was there every day. You know,
I'm sure.
Right. Well, he shot it with intention. You know what I mean? Like the shots are like, and they're not just like all found shots. They're also composed and well orchestrated.
I love it. This is the worst way to see this film.
It
really
is.
small.
Really, I know.
It's just funny. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a reference.
CinemaScope TV.
I know. It's just a reference.
And that's amazing
the,
too. Oh my God. This
if
stuff,
y'all haven't seen this in a while, see it immediately. Oh, and then this hedgehog
Wombat
specifically. Here's a good example.
Wombat.
The zoom lens, I think, is still like those 10 times power zoom lenses are still like kind of fairly new technology. They've only been around for like 5 years or 4 or 5 years or something.
Oh,
at this
okay.
point. So like you see them, it's like kind of, that's why you see it so baked into the style of like these early, like late 60s, early 70s things where they've got a zoom lens on.
Right.
He does this a lot where he's like shooting through foliage, like the plants
Okay.
just sort of green and translucent as they're shooting through. Or
So a lot of it is
Back
responding
and
to
stuff.
is like the vintage patina of these old school lenses that didn't happen before and aren't really so much utilized now.
It's right. Well, it gives a lot of character for this time period of people
Right.
using those, you know.
Let's play Boy and Girl Journey Begins, Evan, because that's like right after the suicide. So they're just departing from this point of the suicide, the location. And this kills me. This is used in like the trailer. It's all the ants eating their picnic, actually.
Amazing.
And it also, this is the greatest shot ever.
yes.
Zooming in on the lizard as they walk by. But
There's
then
lots
also, in the macro photography, like I was saying before, that's probably pretty cutting edge lenses to the macro photography that you see so
It's a
often.
great she's laying out the picnic in the very beginning, and right before her dad kills herself, and there's an ant crawling on like the tablecloth, and she straightens it off with her finger, you know.
That is
Yeah, I know what you mean.
microcosmos.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, and then there's the music. There's the incredible John Barry score with that haunting, heartbreaking theme called Back to Nature. God, you know what? I wish Tony Bennett covered that, but I guess I don't know.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Do you want to lay that on us just real quick, just while we're here?
Okay, sure. You got it. I just was being a little cheeky. Well, first of all, John Barry did the score. He's did all the James Bond stuff, you know, like dun 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 dun, dun. And he's brilliant. And the score is amazing. And there's one song. It's the main motif of the film. You know, the score. It's called Back to Nature. And it's this beautiful, gorgeous thing. It's the last piece heard when you see her face looking melancholy at the end. And for some reason, someone in the production of the film decided to get Tony Bennett, the Rat Pack crooner we all know and love, to sing, have a sung version with lyrics of the song Back to Nature. Now, it was going to be in the film, probably the end credits, you know, and it's just what you think it is. The first line is, you know what, let's save that. And we'll play that for the folks maybe. It's very strange. It didn't wind up in the film. Better heads prevailed, as they say. But I kind of find it, as a huge fan of Walkabout, I think that's an essential 45 for you guys to dig up. Tony Bennett's Walkabout vocal.
That is so weird.
I know. If only we could talk to him. Yeah, or someone in his family.
Yeah,
I
think
well.
I'm sure my girlfriend will have something to say about it. So.
Anyway, so that we'll get to that later. But anyway, I just got completely scrambled. But we're talking about the filmmaking, and we just showed some examples.
Sorry, like I mentioned this for a second, and I just realized that it happens at the end, the beginning, that she scrapes like an ant off the tablecloth, right? And at the end, the guy's hanging from the tree, and she scrapes an ant off his body too. You know, it's like another bookend to that. It's just like there's so many layers to this film, and to have that metaphor go all, or not the metaphor, but the juxtaposition go all the way.
Totally run right through it. No, that's the word, dude. I keep thinking layers. I hear actually. I watched an interview with Jenny Agater, and she says the film has so many layers. It's really a great entry point in getting your head around this film. You know what I mean? Like it's not a story. It's a series of themes and layers. And you can have your own Walkabout experience. But you know what? It's not obnoxious though, and it's somehow not pretentious, because I think the framing of him expressing his themes is done in the most bare bones, basic, classic storytelling.
Pure
in fact,
cinema,
I could see. Yeah. No, but forget cinema. I'm saying like it's ancient. It's like Homeric, you know, or something. It's like probably it's the kind of story that would be told by David's tribe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so elemental is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, it's the first story almost. It's called Surviving. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other things that are going on, but they're all basic things. So then he can layer on that much more complex themes. So it has this really clean through line. Or how about the simplest way to articulate this for me is anyone can see it. Like it was a family film almost more than anything else. It was sort of a head film, a little. It was never a midnight movie ever. It sounds a little weird almost, but that it wasn't. But like it's a family film. I saw it with my family, you know, and then I think about it though when I watch it as an adult now, and I go, you know, you can absorb it for kids or even, you know, middle class adults. You know, it's a story. Like I hope those kids get out of the desert, you know, right? But what I love is that the film gets super fucked up once in a while and incredibly unlike, you know, like Greek or, you know, mythology. Like for instance, how about all the Western hunters shooting the animals, and then at one point the animal backwards lives, you know, like he just reverses the film, and it gets incredibly psychedelic and utilizes a lot of like super modern art house techniques. And that's what's so great. There's that kind of weird tension too as a film. I'm being very inarticulate, but I'm just saying as a film, it has its own conflicts because it's telling a classical story form, but then it gets incredibly 1971, like peyote influenced, performance influenced, like drugged out film techniques. And that's a very cool combination.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. It's so
You know what I mean?
apex of the right place, right time.
Exactly. 1971. That's
so 1971. Yeah.
Let me throw another theme in there that's incredible too. It's like the you know, I think like British colonialism and the industrial age like really just ravaged like the British like personality and mind. Like, you know, like they lost, people moved around and moved all over the place, and the British colonialism was so evil and awful that it stripped away a lot of the history of like the British people. Like they lost touch with like their own folk history. And in the 19th century, like a lot of you know, they came up with their own like pretend imagination of like the British could return to like nature or return to the past. And you see that too, that the film ends with the poem, the Houseman poem, which is talking about like how it's like the winds of the past and nature are like reaching out to you, but you can't go back there. And there's all this sort of I feel like the way that sort of affected the British spirit is just hugely represented in like the symbolism of this film too. Just like the English people coming to terms with like that they have no folk history left. It was just taken away from them by like, you know, the way that their industrial age and colonialism, and that's part of the reason why they can't go back to, you know. But there's always this feeling in their mind. You see that a lot in like 60s like music, or you know, just a return to nature, but that it wasn't.
And how it's not possible.
Yes,
and
exactly.
there's a wistfulness and melancholy, and it's and again, incredible filmmaking. That's all said in her facial expression, looking at her dumbass husband, talking about like Jerry, you know, down in accounts, you know, like I love any movie where the dullard is slowly turned
out.
Yeah. You know, like so then I said to him, it's like, well, listen, is it your account or mine? And then the music, the gorgeous music swells, and her incredible face,
and we're
that's
naked
the thing.
again. Yeah.
Yes, and they cut away to, and because what's on her mind, and she's going to be haunted by that because, like you're saying, Marcus, it's like there's no way to get there, and also if you get there, it's going to be fleeting because she is bourgeois and she's not going to really want to do that. You know what I mean? So she's got a barrier within herself, but then also it's just not done. She probably has family now. She's married, you know, and so she's got all these hangups and constrictions, and she also doesn't really want to go there to live her life that way, because she's idealizing what was a brief moment, like what was it, like a couple weeks or something, if they live like that, you know what I'm saying? And it's also what she's longing for is very 60s. Some people have mentioned this too, that it's an incredibly 70s film. You know, like what's Woodstock, right? They're waking up in the morning in the mud or whatever, and like or going bathing in the pond or whatever the hell's going on, and you know you're barefoot, you know, and you're playing bongos, and like that her idealization is really a typical late 60s idealization of getting back
Yeah.
What is it? What is that? What's that, like Back to the Farm or whatever the fucking that song is?
Right.
You know, it's
to Woodstock, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it was in the zeitgeist very much so.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
I got to cut in here because we are now sub 7 minutes on this 1 fucking hour, which is crazy.
Okay.
Evan's cutting in.
7 minutes.
Sub 7 minutes
and counting.
Here we go.
Well, where are we?
I got two
Oh,
things. I got 2 things I got to get in. That's what
also,
I'm stopping.
we're so stupid. We keep talking about the ending. We could show the ending.
All right, we will.
Evan's got some dying requests. We've got 6 minutes.
Okay, let's do the ending because you just talked about it. Then you got to let me have 2 things at the end, Tom. It's how this works. Okay, here we go.
All yours, brother.
All right, so here's the ending. Boom, boom, boom.
So there's the flat. And by the way, Marcus, more parallels, because you see that in the very beginning, that same shot, and it's her mother cooking. So it's that dread, that rat cage of like the cycle of like, now I'm going to do my mother's life, and now here's my father who's going to become miserable and kill himself and kill our children. So she's
literally the same place. Yeah,
it's the same shot. It's the same shot. I just watched it, and there's her face looking away, longing. And I didn't cut to the nudity. Sorry, we're in a weirdly puritanical time.
Did you? Right.
Right. You can't even show Walkabout for a second. But but there they are. And the music's so gorgeous. I really, you know what? But like, I almost can't listen to the song sometimes. It's too beautiful for me, And I do think of this movie. Look at her face. She's gone.
Got makeup.
Well, he does notice, like, Earth to Jenny. I'm just being stupid.
Look, this is how my own wife looks at me. Actually, I think.
Really?
Also,
and you're going on
hard to watch. Oh God, this where they did
the brick
stones,
walls. We got to talk about the brick walls. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Evan, I have that too. I have the opening of the film, Evan, which is incredible. The opening montage.
All right, how much time do we have?
Fucking
4 minutes. All right, let's try to do it.
The sick ass didgeridoo kicking in over
another juxtaposition. There's the radio static and the feedback, and then the didgeridoo. Fuck yeah!
But you're looking at like shitty civilization.
But like Nick Roeg talks about how a brick wall is the ultimate sign of of a artificial society, or whatever, or something.
Yeah.
And I love how he's using that as the transition point, because there's that amazing shot, which we're going to see here in a minute, of brick wall to outback, which is genius.
Yeah. I love it. It's like it's stylized. It's like like the reveal when you go on the other side of the brick wall is the outback. Which is like, it's kind of a holy mountainish kind of thing, sort of.
That part's really grabby too, because you're like, what are they doing? It really fills you with curiosity when they're doing those breathing exercises.
Right, for their pronunciation, to verbalize. And there's and you see everybody, the horrible father. You see the little brother.
It's a great opening.
Father's in Crocodile Dundee too. Remember, or not 2? Well, he's in 1 and 2, but he's also in Crocodile Dundee. Yeah,
never seen it.
There's like 3 actors, I guess, in Australia.
And I think, there's nothing wrong with having the visual metaphor of like uniformed people. You know what I mean? Like, that's always fun to see, like, people just dressed all alike. To make a shorthand representation of Western civilization.
Point, yeah, they're wearing their school uniforms. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and then this weird repetition.
Communication.
Which, by the way, but listen, when they're doing these vocalization exercises, they're almost abstracted and are like a weird kind of music that David would be into or something. You know what I mean? Just patterns of breathing.
Here we go. Here it is.
Yeah.
So
fucking rules, dude.
So he just brought a brick wall out to the fucking outback? Is that how we did it?
I guess so. It reminds me of like the Beatles or something, or like.
Okay, wait. Perfect segue. Perfect segue. Thank you for that. Okay, the one thing I want to touch on, speaking of the Beatles, was Jenny talked about how this movie was going to be financed by Apple Corps originally.
I love that.
And that's amazing. And she, like, when she signed up and got the part, she's 14. At that time, huge Beatles fanatic, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to get a chance to.
I'm going to be in a Beatles movie." Yeah. If somebody ran Apple better, Apple would have been a powerhouse. There's
Alan Klein's fault, right?
No. He came in to kind of rescue it and did worse. No. Beforehand, like not the Beatles, because they weren't managing, but they did hire all these doofuses who managed. A lot of bad hiring. Like what would Coppola say, right, Marcus? So that's it. Yes, I wish there was a little Apple logo at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
Evan's gonna go. He's got
2 minutes. 2 minutes for one thing to get in, because you guys all want to get it in. We never talked about the fucking the geologists with the with the weather balloon. So Tom,
Yes.
okay, we got to get it in. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm
so
kidding.
what the fuck?
I actually have nothing to say. Well, it becomes, it feels like it's a bad movie inside this incredible movie. Like there's all these kind of corny, like machismo Italian workers and stuff, like, you know what I mean? And it's edited differently, and it just has a nervous, jittery grotesquerie of like Western civilization, like it's and it happens a couple times, like that gross scene where they're making the trinkets in mass.
That's interesting, because I was going to ask if there's any flaws with the movie, but I guess that would be it, right? Is the
No,
weather
I think it's a flaw.
I don't think it's a flaw. It is definitely a head scratcher, I think, a little bit, because there is like some comedy to the scene, because we see this, like, the balloon's going away, and then we're looking up, we're looking into her dress, and
whatever, yeah. I think it's a bad European comedy representing the grotesquerie of that whole continent inside this gorgeous world and this gorgeous film. I don't think there's another way to look at it.
But there are competing cultures like sort of in it, though. Yeah, but there are, like, because you have the Italians, and then she's, I think,
German or something.
Yeah, or something.
Europeans.
Yeah, but there is kind of, like, I think, a little bit of a cult. I think he's trying to communicate a culture clash in there. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's that too.
So
yeah, for
he
sure.
is. He's trying to put that in there, which is just a bizarre scene. But man, yeah, Walkabout.
I love it. It's still filmed great. It's filmed as great as anything else, though.
It is.
And edited.
But guys,
awesome.
20 seconds. Walkabout. Fucking 6-star movie. One of the best.
I hated it. Yeah.
This hour went by
kidding.
fucking fast. Holy
I know.
shit.
I want a pill where you become 6 years old and can watch movies, and it wears off in 2 hours.
6 out of 5.
Special thing.
6
That would
out
be
of 5.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That was one fucking hour on.
But I can't
Walkabout.
go back to that theater again. That's the thing. It's all related. I can't go back to that movie theater as a 6-year-old.
So
I'm
you'd
just going
be
to
like
wistfully.
a 6-year-old watching it on Blu-ray, I guess. Okay. All right. So
All your favorite movie theaters will close. I've learned, that's the one thing I've learned in life.
Oh yeah.
All
Actually,
right,
that one's still open. Ironically, in Long Beach, the Art Theater.
All right, everybody. That was one fucking hour on Walkabout. Thanks for listening.
And you know what? Are we going to lay on the good people out there in the internet what our next choice is?
I was just about to get to it.
This was made while we were all on a peyote trek at the top of a mountain. We just did some alpining, and we all three of us said at the same time, the next movie has got to be
Magnolia.
Oh no, we're doing it. Oh god.
So here's the hard left turn here, hard right turn.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So here's the thing. I just saw fucking.
We are doing it.
What's it? Licorice Sunday, Licorice Pizza. I saw it last night. Another one of those PTA endurance tests for me.
Texted us right away.
You can't stop talking about it. That's your blurb.
Yeah, I can't stop talking about it. That was some Guantanamo Bay shit, let me tell you. All right, so we're going to be I think that's maybe a little unfair, because Inherent Vice is that. This was a notch above.
I saw the premiere
of that. But anyway, it inspired the choice. It inspired the choice for us to look back at old Magnolia for our next episode. So I think that'll be fun.
PTA's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No bueno.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I'm finally starting to prefer the other Paul Anderson films, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, we're loaded for bear on this one.
Oh.
It's not going to be pretty.
It's not going to be pretty. Yeah. Definitely do not wear your cardigan. We should all wear cardigans next week, maybe, for that one. Scarves.
Well, I was going to wear a ponytail and, like a power tee,
okay.
fitted,
All right. So next week, everybody, one
brutal.
Fucking hour on Magnolia.
No, Evan, we have to all sing Save Me or whatever that song is together.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like in our different cubicles here, right?
All right, woof. Okay, so next week, 1 fucking hour on Magnolia. We're actually doing it. I can't believe it. And
from the sublime to the ridiculous.
Magnolia.
Yes. To Magnolia.
Here we go. But everybody, before we say goodbye, we have to mention, stay tuned now for your very special Moment of Zen. Okay, everybody, good night. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Walk about, and as you wander on, reflect and ponder on
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
about